Hey everyone! So something pretty crazy happened in my garden recently. I buried a fish. Yep, a whole fish, like the entire thing, scales, bones, the works. And before you ask, no, I'm not trying to start a weird new diet or make sushi in the dirt. I actually did it as a little experiment, and what came out of it totally blew me away. If you're someone who loves gardening, trying new hacks, or just curious about strange experiments that actually work, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. Because I promise, what I'm about to show you is not your average plant a seed and watch it grow story. Here's the backstory. Fish are packed with all sorts of good stuff for plants. Things like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are exactly the nutrients plants crave to grow big and strong. Fishermen and farmers have actually used fish scraps and fish-based fertilizers for centuries, especially in places like Alaska and parts of Asia. But I've never seen anyone just bury a whole fish in a regular home garden and watch what happens. So I figured, why not try? Now let me be clear, I'm not a professional gardener or scientist. I'm just someone who likes to get their hands dirty and try out weird ideas to see if they actually work. Plus, I love the idea of using natural, free stuff to help plants grow, instead of relying on chemicals or expensive fertilizers. So, one day I went to the market and grabbed a small fish. Nothing fancy, just a regular fish you'd find in any grocery store. I brought it home and dug a hole right in the middle of my vegetable patch. Then I buried the fish deep enough so it was completely covered with soil. At that moment, I wasn't sure what to expect. Would the fish rot and smell terrible? Would bugs swarm it and ruin my whole garden? Or maybe nothing would happen at all, just soil and nothing else. I didn't know. But here's the exciting part. I decided to document the entire thing. Every day, I'd check the spot where I buried the fish. I watered it, watched for any signs of growth, and made notes about what I saw. And honestly, the first few days were pretty weird. There was a faint, fishy smell lingering in the air. Not super strong, but enough to make me raise an eyebrow. I was worried that it might attract pests or even rats, which, honestly, would have been a nightmare. But surprisingly, nothing crazy happened. No swarms of bugs, no rats digging it up, nothing at all. The soil just stayed moist and healthy looking, which honestly was a good sign. I made sure not to overwater it because I figured too much water might speed up rot and cause bad smells or mold. I kept a close eye on the whole thing, maybe more than I needed to, checking every day, poking around the soil a bit to see if anything was happening beneath the surface. And for the first week, well, nothing much, just dirt. It honestly looked like any other part of the garden. But then, around day 5 or 6, I noticed something. Tiny green sprouts were poking up right where I buried the fish. At first, I thought it might be a weed or something random blowing in the wind, but these little sprouts kept growing faster than the rest of the plants around them. They looked healthier and fuller, definitely not your usual weed. By day 10, the sprouts had turned into small leafy plants. I was shocked. I hadn't planted anything there, so what were these? I started thinking maybe the nutrients from the fish were feeding the soil and helping new plants grow. The soil itself felt different too, richer and darker than the rest of the garden. It almost looked like it had a life of its own. I kept watering the spot carefully and continued documenting the growth every couple of days, and the plants just kept thriving. Their leaves were bright green, thick, and vibrant, way healthier than other plants in my garden that were getting regular fertilizer and water. Honestly, I was kind of amazed. I expected the buried fish to cause problems or just rot away and disappear, but instead, it seemed like it had created a little nutrient hotspot underground that was feeding these mystery plants. Alright, so after burying the fish, I was honestly not sure what to expect. I mean, this was kind of a wild experiment. I'd never done anything like this before, and I had zero clue what would happen underground. Would the fish just rot away and make my whole garden stink? Would bugs swarm the spot and turn it into a total mess? Or maybe nothing would happen at all, just soil and nothing else. The first few days were definitely a bit weird. I kept checking on the spot where I buried the fish, watering it gently like I do with the rest of my garden, but there was this faint fishy smell lingering in the air. Not super strong, but enough to make me raise an eyebrow. I was worried that it might attract pests or even rats, which honestly would have been a nightmare. But surprisingly, nothing crazy happened. No swarms of bugs, no rats digging it up, nothing. The soil just stayed moist and healthy looking, which was a good sign. I made sure not to overwater it because I figured too much water might speed up decay and cause bad smells or mold. I kept a close eye on the whole thing, maybe more than I needed to, checking every day, poking around the soil a bit to see if anything was happening beneath the surface. And for the first week, well, nothing much, just dirt. It honestly looked like any other part of the garden. But then, around day 5 or 6, I noticed something. Tiny green sprouts were poking up right where I buried the fish. At first, I thought it might be a weed or something random blowing in the wind, but these little sprouts kept growing faster than the rest of the plants around them. They looked healthier and fuller, definitely not your usual weed. By day 10, the sprouts had turned into small leafy plants. I was shocked. I hadn't planted anything there, so what were these? I started thinking maybe the nutrients from the fish were feeding the soil and helping new plants grow. The soil itself felt different too, richer and darker than the rest of the garden. It almost looked like it had a life of its own. Eventually, I harvested some of the leaves from these mystery plants. I tossed them into a salad to try them out. And guess what? They tasted amazing. Fresh, clean, and earthy. Nothing fishy, just pure garden goodness. It was like eating a superfood straight from my backyard. Okay, so now, for the part you've all been waiting for. What actually grew from burying that fish in my garden? The anticipation has been building, and I can't wait to share the results with you. Let's dive into the details of what happened after I buried that fish. Remember, I didn't plant anything at the spot where I buried the fish. So when those little green sprouts started popping up, I was curious and a bit confused. What were these plants? Where did they come from? As the days went on, these sprouts grew into full-on leafy plants. They weren't the usual veggies or flowers I'd planted in other parts of my garden. Instead, they looked like a mix of wild herbs and some leafy greens, kind of like spinach or kale, but with a bit of a wild twist. I think what happened was that the fish created a tiny underground ecosystem. When it broke down, it fed not just the soil but also a bunch of tiny soil organisms, like bacteria and worms, that helped turn the nutrients into something plants could use. It was like nature's own little factory, turning a buried fish into fresh, thriving plants. And honestly, seeing that was pretty amazing. What really surprised me was how fast these plants grew. Way faster than any other plants I had in the garden. Their leaves were thick, lush, and bright green, the kind of healthy look every gardener dreams of. The spot where I buried the fish just seemed to be buzzing with life. I also noticed the soil around these plants felt softer and darker, like it had been supercharged with nutrients. I'm pretty sure the fish boosted the soil's quality in a big way. Eventually, I harvested some of the leaves from these mystery plants. I tossed them into a salad to try them out. And guess what? They tasted amazing. Fresh, clean, and earthy. Nothing fishy, just pure garden goodness. It was like eating a superfood straight from my backyard. So after weeks of watching my little fish experiment, what did I actually learn? Well, turns out burying a fish in your garden isn't just some weird stunt. It's actually a natural, powerful way to feed your plants. Fish are loaded with nutrients plants love, like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are the same things you find in commercial fertilizers, but the difference is, fish is totally natural and free if you have scraps lying around. It's kind of like giving your plants a protein shake, straight from the sea. One of the coolest things about this whole experiment was seeing how nature does its thing underground. The fish breaks down, soil microbes and worms get busy, and those nutrients turn into food for plants. It's really an all-in-one, eco-friendly fertilizer system happening right beneath your feet. But here's the thing, it's not instant. You can't just bury a fish and expect to see magic the next day. It takes patience. The fish needs time to break down, and the soil needs time to absorb all those nutrients and turn them into something plants can actually use. Also, there are some important tips if you want to try this yourself. Bury the fish deep enough, about 6 to 8 inches, so that it doesn't smell too much and doesn't attract unwanted pests like rats or raccoons. Use small, fresh fish or leftover scraps. And don't bury anything too big or too old, or you might end up with a stinky mess. I also found it's key to keep the soil moist but not soaked. Too much water speeds up decay and can cause bad smells. Just regular watering like you normally would is perfect. Another thing I learned is that this method works best as part of a bigger garden care routine. Don't rely only on fish. Mix it with good soil, compost, and care. But adding a buried fish here and there can definitely boost your soil health and plant growth. This experiment also got me thinking about how people have used natural fertilizers for centuries. Before all the chemical fertilizers came along, folks used fish, seaweed, manure, and other organic stuff to feed their crops. It's old-school gardening with a new twist. And honestly, it feels good knowing that I'm helping my plants grow with something natural, sustainable, and eco-friendly. No chemicals, no harsh stuff, just simple nature doing its magic. So, would I do this again? Absolutely. I'm even planning to try other natural things, maybe burying some seaweed or coffee grounds next. But for now, the fish experiment was a huge success, and my garden has never looked better. If you're into gardening hacks or just want to try something different and fun, I definitely recommend giving this a shot. Just remember to be patient, take care of your soil, and enjoy the weird but wonderful surprises nature can give you. Alright, if you liked this crazy gardening experiment, hit that like button and subscribe for more fun, weird, and sometimes wild gardening tips. And drop a comment below if you'd ever try burying a fish, or if you've got other wild garden ideas you want me to test. Thanks for hanging out with me today. See you in the next video.